everyone, my name is Katja, I'm Cat Coloring, and today's video is a review of the 50 set pastel colors from Holbein artists. These pencils are produced in Japan and come in this very long box. So, when we open this box here, we find that we have some sort of protection sheet here. We have a swatch chart, and the color names are in English, Cherry Blossom, and the color numbers are also here. So this swatch sheet we can use later on. We also get this little folder here with a list of what I would imagine are all of the colors that Holbein produces. So both the pastel colors, but also the rest of the normal colors. And we also here have the luminous colors, the red, rose, opera, orange, lemon, and green here. We also have some metallic colors. So this is a complete list of all of the colors produced by Holbein. So if we remove this protective sheet here, we have them. All of these beautiful pastel colors, 50 of them, and they are absolutely gorgeous just by looking at the colors on the barrels. You can take one up here and we can see that it says Holbein and Holbein Works Limited. Then we have the color name here, Naples Yellow, and the number 134. Can also see that the tip is blunt, so it will have to be sharpened. Holbein actually says that the color of the barrels matches the color of the pencils, and I have to say, by looking at all of these, they are right. This is perhaps the first time that I have experienced an actual match between all of the color barrels and the colors of the pencils. You can also see here on the back of the pencil, it says Holbein Artists Colored Pencil, Japan. Can also see here a match between the barrel here and the tip here of the pencil. So let's do as we always do. I will just sharpen them and I will swatch them, and then I will of course test them. Let's get going. So as you can see, I have my swatch chart here. I have changed a little bit the way the colors are, so this is not quite the way that they lie down here in the box. So I will talk about this later. You can also see I have made a line here because these 6 colors here are different from the rest of the colors. So I will swatch them now to some music. I will speed the swatching process up so you can just sit back, relax, and then I will discuss the colors further, and we will test them in different coloring books to see how they work on different sorts of paper. the colors have been swatched now, and I just have to say, wow, they are really pastel-like. Well, most of them, because you can clearly see that the last 6 of the colors, they are not pastel colors. So in reality, we have 44 pastel colors in this 50 set, and the last 6 colors are more bright and normal colors. We have mustard, chartreuse green, olive yellow, leaf green, and the true gray colors, and they are not pastel colors, although these 2 are light gray colors. So you might argue that they, well, are sort of pastel-like because it is the cool gray 2 and the warm gray 2. And you know, when you have a lot of gray colors, the ones with the smallest numbers, like 1 and 2 and 3, are the lightest of the gray colors, whether it be warm gray or cool gray. So you could argue that these 2 light gray colors are sort of pastel colors, but you could not argue that mustard, chartreuse green, olive yellow, and leaf green are pastel colors, because they are not pastel colors. These are, especially the chartreuse green, bright colors and actually normal colors. Why they are put in this pastel color set, I have no idea, because I am not Holbein and have not been a part of producing these pencils. But you actually also see it in the Castle Art pastel tint tones. There are also some bright colors amongst them. And when you have the Monarch set from the Black Widows, which contains most of their pastel colors, there are also some bright colors there. So let's look apart from that and just look at the very beautiful colors here. And we can clearly see that we have some very nice pink colors, and especially some very nice blue colors also here. I especially like the lavender blue and the smart blue. I think that the small blue is a very, very beautiful lavender, dark lavender color, I have to say. Also, some of the green colors here, also very, very beautiful. And a lot of these green colors I can see really look like a lot of the green colors from both the pastel tint sets from Castle Arts and the Black Widow set. So I am confident that we can find some colors that really match. Can also see here some more skin tone colors here, both in the pink sort of colors here with the shell pink, ash rose, and cherry blossom, but also here with the beige and sand colors. So you could actually use some of these colors to create some skin and some highlights in skin with the ivory. So all in all, very, very beautiful colors, very pigmented also, actually. And you may have noticed when I swatched them that there was quite a bit of pencil dust, but this is because I always swatch on normal printing paper. So now we have to test them on good paper, which means the coloring paper we find in our coloring books. And I will, as usual, try them out in 3 different coloring books in 3 different sorts of papers. So let's get started on testing these coloring pencils. So we will begin testing them in Den Magiske Jungle, Magical Jungle by Johanna Basford. As you know, I color somewhat, or rather a lot, in her books. And I will be using my test pages here with all of the leaves. And I will be coloring this leaf, and I will be using blue colors and not greens. So I will be using small blue number 339. Forget-me-not blue number 326 and lavender blue number 328. So let's begin with the darkest color in here. And I have a very light pressure, and you can see no pencil dust whatsoever. Oh, there was a little bit. So that was the first layer of the small blue. And then I think that we will take the Forget-me-not. So, you know, in the first round, we just get some color down on the page. So that was the first layer. I will just take the lavender blue just so that I have used this for applying one layer here on the edge of the leaf. I will be coloring this bit with a metallic gel pen, like I normally do here with the leaves. Okay, so this is the first layer, and we can clearly see the white of the paper shining through, so one layer is not enough, but I didn't think so. So let's keep this one layer, and let's move 2 layers up here. So that was 2 layers, and then the forget-me-not with the second layer here. So already now we can see a difference between 1 and 2 layers. So the color comes down very nicely. It's actually quite a soft pencil, this one. It's not very hard, but it's not as soft as a Prismacolor, of course, but it is rather soft and workable. And it's really nice when you have sharpened them to a sharp tip here. They don't just break. I had no trouble sharpening them, I might add. Can see here, still see some of the white of the paper shining through, so this layer will not be enough. But I actually, so this was 2 layers. So of course I will have to apply a second layer up here and here, because you know, I think that we may need some layering here. And as you can see, like I said before, I have really sharpened them to a very sharp point. I didn't use my dolly because I had some, I have some technical issues with it. I had a Prismacolor break in my dolly, never experienced that before. And this little piece of the tip, I can't get it out right now. So I had to use my old sharpener, which is a sharpener mostly for harder pencils, but I have to say it really did the job very well. You can see how sharp the tips are here. Okay, so 1 layer and 2 layers. So this we keep as 2 layer, and now here we add a 3rd layer. And I will also add a 3rd layer here. And now the forget-me-not with a 3rd layer here. See, we do have a little bit of pencil dust, but not as much as on the printing paper. So you can see here, 1 layer really doesn't cover a lot, gives a nice color though. 2nd layer, can clearly see the difference between the 1st and the 2nd layer, and now the 3rd layer. Wow, you can really see how the color comes through. And I would have to say it's almost covered. There is hardly any white of the paper left here with the 3rd layer. Let's just double check this. Okay, I actually think that I forgot the 3rd layer here of the forget-me-not. So I will just add the 3rd layer here. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, and now a 4th layer. So we add a 4th layer here, and I can feel the surface really changing now. I can't really feel the paper. I can only feel the coloring pencil here. And the fourth layer of the forget-me-not. And now I think that you can see the difference clearly. 1 layer, 2 layer, 3 layers, and here, 4th layer. You cannot see the white of the paper, not one bit. And you can feel in the surface that the tooth of the paper is completely covered with the coloring pencil. But I have to say that I think 3 layers will do it in this book, because there's hardly any of the white of the paper with the 3rd layer. So if I have to be quite honest, I think that 3 layers will work enough in Johanna Basford books, at least on this type of paper we have here, where it's actually quite smooth in the surface and have this white tone, not creamish at all. So I will just color the rest and we will just see how it goes. So you can now see the result. I have applied 4 layers here in the inner circles of the leaf, and out here just 3 layers with the lavender blue, and then just added some metallic and glitter gel pen here in blue also. But you can see the result. I think it's very, very nice. These pencils work absolutely beautifully. They are characterized as an oil-based pencil. When you Google them, you can find some places where it says that they are a mixture of wax and oils and fats. But when you go to Holbein's own website, they are clearly classified as an oil-based pencil. And they actually remind me of the Charisma colors also produced in Japan, the new Charisma colors, not the old vintage from Beryl, which were wax-based. But the Charisma colors have sort of the same feel when you lay the color down, except that they are softer than this one. However, I do think that these Holbein pencils are more soft than, for example, Koh-i-Noor or Polychromos, which a lot of coloring pencil artists use. So they are softer than the Polychromos, and I think more easy to work with. You can also see here where I have blended. They are very easy to blend, even easier than the Polychromos, because it's not that easy to blend oil-based pencils compared to wax-based, at least. So I think they blend actually quite well. So that was the Johanna Basford book, a little bit of pencil dust, and 3 layers is actually more than enough. You could go for 4, but perhaps it's actually overdue. So 3 layers in this book. So let us turn to another coloring book artist that I use a lot, and that's why I test my coloring pencils in these books. This is Twilight Garden, and as you can see here, my coloring test page. So I will be coloring this little flower down here, and I will be using Rose Pink number 429, Cosmos number 437, and also Mint Green number 274. So this flower, I will just try to use the coloring pencils not in layers but just for blending. So I will begin with the Cosmos to see how well it blends here. So add some darker pink color here. Work very nicely. And also feels quite soft here on this paper. And now the Rose Pink. You can see here already it blends so nicely into each other, these colors. Let's try to just add a little bit more of the darker color of the Cosmos. Just to get a little more color in here. And then some more of the pink rose. And look how it just blends into each other. It says on Holbein's website that you can blend the darker color into the lighter colors, but I actually think it also works great the other way around, with the light colors into the dark colors. And you noticed I just had to wipe a little bit of pencil dust off here. So also here in Maria Trolle's books here on this paper, this is a more coarse paper and it's more creamy in the tone, so you still have to wipe a little bit of paper dust off. And now just for some color on the leaves, and notice how beautifully the color just lays down and how easily. These are exceptionally easy to lay down here on this paper in Maria Trolle's book here. Oh, I have to write what color this is. Holbein Pastels. Wow. So easy to lay down here and so easy to blend. An absolute joy to work with, and they're also really nice to hold, these pencils. So we also have to look at the layering, and I will color some of these flowers here. I actually think I will only use one color, the apricot number 131. So let's see, with one layer here. So I will just give all of these flowers one layer. And still very, very easy to lay down. And you have this really nice feeling when you hold them. They are really, really nice to have in the hand. Actually also reminds me of the polychromas. They are also very nice to hold in the hand. And also the charisma colors. I just think that with this a bit thicker barrel and the thicker lead here, it's so easy to work with compared to thinner pencils, including the Prismacolors. We can clearly see the white of the paper here. Okay, so let's try to have this as one layer and then add a second layer to these flowers. I don't know what these flowers are. So that was 2 layers, and you can still see 1 layer, white of the paper, 2 layers. Well, I would actually say it's almost completely covered. Let us just try here and add a 3rd layer to this flower here. Yeah, and there you have it. So now it's really completely covered. The tooth is saturated with color now. So actually I think that only 2 layers are really necessary in this book. Because a 3rd layer, it's almost too much. Well, you can clearly see the color, but it's also almost a bit too much here compared to here. So I would say 2 layers are actually more than enough in this book on this paper. Okay, now onwards to a Hannah Carlson book. So my test page in a Hannah Carlson book is a page here in the coloring book Seasons. And it is this page. I have already tested Arctics and Black Widows and the Charisma colors here. So I think that we will color this plant here and test the Holbeins here, and I will be using Rose Grey number 495, Misty Green number 272, and Willow Green number 270. Okay, so let's try the blending here with the green colors. So I will use Misty Green, as Misty Green is the darkest of these colors. And it's also easy, fairly easy to lay down the color here. In this book. So we sort of take this color up into the leaves. And let's see how well it blends here. So we take the willow green and it blends nicely into each other. You can hardly see that there's a blending line here. They are very, very easy to use here. So that was a blending test. It's really, if you can see it here, really nicely blended into each other. So how many layers are we going to give this? Well, let's start with this one, and I will just give these, I have no idea what it is, I assume it's flowers, these three 1 layer. This one also, so we have 4. And you can clearly see the white of the paper shining through here. So that was 1 layer. So let's keep this as 1 layer and then add a second layer to this one. And these two also. Can still see some of the white of the paper. It has added a bit more color, but actually not much, because we already have a lot of color laid down here with just 1 layer. I have a sneaking suspicion that these remind me of the art text pencils here. So 1 layer, 2 layers. Let's add a third layer to these 2 flowers. A little bit of dust here in this book on this paper. So if we take it up, we can still see quite a lot of the white of the paper actually shining through with 3 layers here compared to 1 and 2. But the third layer adds more depth to the color compared to the 1 and 2 layers. So let's have this as the third layer and then add a 4th layer to this one. And now you can clearly see a difference. There is still some of the white of the paper after a 4th layer, but I think that the paper is so saturated now with color that I wouldn't add a 5th layer. And if I have to be quite honest, I think that 2 or 3 layers should be more than enough in this book. Not to cover the white of the paper, but to add some color to the drawings actually. I think 3 layers tops in this book is more than enough, because otherwise it gets too much here with 4 layers. but in all of the 3 books, a little bit of paper dust. So let's wrap this review up. So to conclude about these Holbein Pastel pencils, they are an oil-based pencil. They are nice to hold. They are quite soft for an oil-based pencil and softer to work with than, for example, the polychromos. So I actually think it's quite a joy to work with them because they lay down beautifully and they are very color saturated. So you get a lot of color with only a couple of layers depending on the paper that you color with. If the paper is thin and of a low quality, like printing paper, they will dust quite a bit. But when you use them in coloring books, there is very little dust when you use them. But there is some dust compared to other coloring pencils where they don't dust in books. So if I had to choose what coloring books I will use these pencils in, I would say that Johanna Basford books and Maria Trolle books would actually work the best for me, because I felt that when I laid them down, it were the easiest books on the paper to lay them down on. I do think that not all coloring pencils are suited to work in the paper in Hanna Karlsson books. I said a couple of minutes ago that these coloring pencils reminded me of the Arctics, and I just have to say I had so much trouble covering the tooth of the paper with the Arctics pencils, and in other coloring books they work like a dream and only takes 2 or 3 layers and then it's done. But you can see here that you can still see some of the white of the paper. It takes a lot, and I think that if you press too hard and get too much color down, it's just too much with these coloring pencils. So you have to layer them lightly if you want to use them in Hanna Karlsson books. A downside to these pencils, they are hard to come by because they are Japanese manufactured and they are not sold just everywhere. And when you buy them, they are rather expensive compared to other coloring pencils. For example, the Castle Art Pastel tints, they are really nice and they also work really well, and they are a lot cheaper than Holbein, I have to say. And then they are wax-based, so they are perhaps a bit easier to work with, in some opinions at least. So when you buy them, you will have to pay a lot of money, and you can't just buy them everywhere. You can get them on, I think it's Amazon, at least Amazon Japan. I don't know if the Amazon US or UK have them. I bought mine, as I said, from an art store in London called Jackson's Art, and they do have Holbein colored pencils, both the normal and the pastels and the luminous and the metallics. They come in different sets and they ship to the rest of Europe. And if you just keep your buys under 150 euros, you don't have to pay import fees and taxes and all that. You can just pay for the pencils and then pay for the shipping, and that's it. But that also, limits how much you can buy, because the smaller sets and the 50 set of pastel you can buy, but the larger sets you cannot buy. It will be way too expensive. So to conclude, these are very nice to have. I have to say, I really, really like them already, and I haven't used them a lot, but they are not necessarily a need to have. So if you want good quality pastel pencils, you don't have to buy these expensive Holbein pencils. You can actually just buy some of the Black Widow pencils, the Monarch set. I can highly recommend, because they also have pastel colors. They work very nicely, and they are also quite cheaper than buying the Holbein. And as I said before, the Castle Art Pastel tint sets also much cheaper than Holbeins, and they also work very, very nicely in coloring books compared to the rest of the Castle Art range, where the pencils don't work always really as good as they should in all sorts of coloring books. If you want to know more about the Castle Art Pastel tints, I have a review of them on my channel. I also have a review of the other Castle Art sets. So this opinion was based on my reviews of these pencils. I hope that you got some information you could use from this review of the Holbein Artist Pastel set of 50 colors. I hope that you will like this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Also hope that I will see you in one of my next videos. More reviews are coming, and also flip-throughs of coloring books, color alongs, beginner tutorials, and other stuff you can find on my channel. So until I see you next time, have a very nice day. Take care of yourself. Happy coloring. Bye.